So I made this, and I wanted to come on today to do the so many questions. It's a list of 40 questions that a group of YouTubers came up with in the sewing community, and they came out with this questionnaire probably a year ago, maybe even longer, and I'm just getting around to it. So since I have more than enough time on my hands during this quarantining, I figured I might as well do all 40 questions and maybe break it up in a couple of videos. So here we go. Oh, there's a spider. First, I want to show you what I'm wearing. This is probably my favorite outfit currently. It's the York pinafore, and the shirt is just a t-shirt that I've had for ages. So I'm gonna stand up and show you. So it has pockets, and it goes down to right above my knees. All right, first question is, how and when did you start sewing? I started sewing when I was probably in my early teens. I remember because I remember sewing outfits for my dolls, and I also remember sewing the legs of my pants, because back then it was the time of flared legs, or bell bottoms is what they used to call them. We weren't really fans of bell bottoms. It was kind of like they weren't in style. So at one point I decided to taper my pants, and so I would get on my mom's sewing machine and I would just kind of taper in my pants. Like, that's when I kind of started sewing. And then years later, it was probably when I was maybe 15, 16, my mom and my aunt had a sewing class at our church. So that was like my first official lesson. And then I didn't do anything after that. Over the years, like in my 20s, I was thinking I'm gonna start sewing again. I never did, and even when I lived in Cincinnati, it seemed like it crossed my mind, because, and sorry about the noise, I'm sitting right in front of our balcony door. Hopefully I'm not talking too loud and my neighbors can hear me. How much time do you spend sewing? It varies. Sometimes I can sew all day, and sometimes I don't sew at all during the day. So it just really depends. Like yesterday, I didn't sew at all. Today, I don't know if I'll get to sewing or not. I've kind of been taking a break because I've been making so many face masks, and since I don't have any orders pending right now, I figured it'd be a nice time to just take a break, because I was actually planning on taking a week or two off of making face masks and just like maybe sewing something for myself or things for myself. This is probably one of the few things that I actually sewed in April. Yeah, I sewed this a couple weeks ago. So I didn't sew that much last month, but hopefully I'll sew a little bit more. But yeah, it just depends. I mean, depends on the day. Who supports your sewing at home? My husband. He is my biggest supporter. Other people, I actually, when I post on social media, I get different people that want me to sew for them, and I have sewn for other people. My aunt is another big supporter, and a few cousins, my sister-in-law, my mother-in-law. I have a lot of supporters. What's your dream job? My dream job would be to travel and get paid for it. Maybe do travel agents travel? Yeah, travel agents. I don't know if I would want to be a travel agent or not, though. I don't know. Something, I don't really even want to be an airline stewardess, although I have thought about it. I've also thought about working on a ship. Well, this is way before COVID-19, but I have thought about working on a cruise ship and being able to go different places around the world and get paid for it. Ooh, there's a pretty bird outside. It's yellow. It's so beautiful. What's your spirit animal? I would say a deer, but Tim thinks they're the stupid animals ever. So I would say an eagle. Yeah. planner or improviser? Both. I was talking about this in another video where it was like, I have these vague plans in my head or ideas that I come up with. So sometimes I do have ideas that I can plan. I'll plan certain things that I want to make. It's not something that I'm super strict with sticking to my plan. So in that regard, I would say I'm an improviser. Do you have any pet helpers? No, I do not. We don't have any animals. We would love to get a dog at some point, but nope. Worst habit, sewing or otherwise? Worst habit. I have a habit of biting my nails. Sometimes I'm pretty good at not biting them. And then other times, I don't know if I'm bored or I'm stressed out or what, but sometimes I do bite my nails. So what else would I say is a bad habit? That's all I can think of. When you aren't sewing, what are you doing? When I'm not sewing, I love watching movies, romantic movies specifically, but any type of really good drama movie. I love watching movies, just taking time to just kind of shut everything off and just enjoy a really good movie. I love that. I also, what everybody else does in their life, cleaning, spending time with my husband. And during this quarantine, it hasn't been that much else to do other than sew, at least for me. I know some people have had other things that have kept them from sewing, like kids, but with our kids, they're pretty self-efficient. So even with school, they do their own schoolwork, so we don't have to really monitor them with that, so that's great. So yeah, just basic stuff. Where are you from? I'm from Michigan, and that's where I'm currently living, maybe 30 minutes north of Detroit. I don't know why my nose is itching. Yeah, so about 30 minutes north of Detroit is where I live. I did move back in 2008. I moved down to Ohio, Cincinnati, Ohio, and I moved there for a job, and I lived there for 8 years. And the only reason I came back is because I got married. And since Tim had 3 kids and he didn't want to move away from his kids, I moved back to Michigan. So, and by the way, Tim and I, we reconnected back in 2015. So Tim and I, we dated when we were teenagers, and he's always lived here in Michigan, and he had been married, and so he had 3 kids, and he didn't want to move away from his kids. So when he and I reconnected, it was like we were kind of bouncing around the idea whether he was going to move down there or I was going to move here. So here I am. I moved back to Michigan. So my parents and most of my family still live here in Michigan also. So where do you sew? I sew upstairs in our bedroom. It's a nice sized bedroom, and so I have a little sewing space, which I did a sewing space tour a couple weeks ago, so you can check that out. But yeah, I sew up there. The only negative is we only have one window in our bedroom, and that's where I sew at, but it's still relatively dark up there, so that's kind of the kind of negative. I love my space, and so it's I do have kind of a designated space that I sew in. What sewing machine do you use or own? I have several sewing machines. My mother-in-law gave me, was it a brother? Initially when I started back sewing a couple years ago, maybe 3 now, she let me use hers, which I still have. And then I worked for a company that actually sold machines. They sold Toyota brand machines because they were affiliated with Toyota. And so I have 2 machines. I have a serger and a regular sewing machine. And then I also have another brother machine, the SE 425. I think it is, that my mother-in-law also gave me. So, and that one actually does embroidery, which I love. What's your dream sewing machine? I don't know. What is my dream sewing machine? I don't really know. I haven't really done that much research on machines. I mean, I love the Brother. It does a lot. I don't know what my dream sewing machine would be. I know there's a like other brands, like, what is it? Genovi? Is that one? Bernina? That's another popular one. That's supposed to be really good. But there's a lot of different ones. I just don't really get into that much into like sewing machines per se. I'm more into like patterns and fabric. Like, that excites me. But I mean, if I came across a really nice sewing machine and I could get it, I would be all over it. But I just don't know what sewing machine that would be. How do you store your patterns? I store my patterns up in my bedroom in little plastic sleeves, and then also in the magazine folders, kind of similar to that, to those folders in there. And they're sitting on this shelf in my bedroom. You can also see that in the sewing tour that I did. How big is your stash? My stash is not that big, and it's been depleting. I shouldn't say rapidly. I do have a few pieces that I have plans to sew with. And I did a fabric stash about a month ago that you can check out. And I don't think I've sewn anything since that stash. At least not with what was in my stash, I don't think. So yeah, it's not that big. I would say I could probably, with what I have, I don't know, I could maybe make 6 or 7 garments. No, I take that back. I could probably make more than that. Probably at least 10 with what I have now. So I don't think that's that big. What inspires you? Location, family, work, etc. What inspires you? That's a good question. I don't know if I even remember people answering this question. My husband inspires me. He's an artist too, not a sewing artist, but he's a musician. So he's creative also. And then he gets so excited when I'm doing something. I inspire myself. I think I'm just self-motivated, because when I started sewing, it was really random. Well, to him it was. In my head, I had been thinking about it for years. So when I brought it up to him, it was kind of random the way I brought it up to him, because I don't know where we were, what we were doing. But I just out of the blue said, I think I'm gonna start sewing again. And he was like, I didn't know you sewed. So yeah, so he gets excited by just the stuff that I do, the stuff that just like pop in my head. Things just pop in my head random. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do such and such. I guess a lot of stuff inspires me. With my sewing, probably like certain things on Instagram, some of the sewists that I follow inspire me. Sometimes I go to Pinterest for inspiration also. Proudest make or moment. My proudest make or moment. I think I have a lot of proud moments. I would probably say something that it was kind of like something that I made that wasn't really on my radar, I guess, so to speak. But an event came up last winter where Tim had to play. He plays the saxophone. He had to play at a banquet. And so I was wondering what I was going to wear to it, because of course it was kind of like a dressier affair, and I knew I didn't really want to go to the store and buy anything. And then the stuff that I had that was kind of dressy, I had already worn it, so I don't know, I just didn't really want to wear it again. And so I decided to make this dress. It was a pattern that I had for probably over a year, and it was a Vogue pattern, and I just really loved the look of it, but I didn't really have anything planned to go to where I would wear a dress like that. So I made it, and it turned out really well, and then I made it again, and I really loved the second one I made. So that was a proud moment, because it was like a dressier dress, and like it had a zipper. I've done zippers before, and I also done like linings with the zipper too, and it just had different details that I was really, when it came together the second time, more so than the first time, but the way it came together, I was really proud of that make. So I guess that would probably be my proudest make. Most disastrous make or moment. Oh my gosh. I was making this dress for someone, and it was the style I was going for. I was kind of doing not really a hack, but I was trying to figure out the best way to put it together, because it had a bodice that was sleeveless, and it had an overlay that was lace, and I was trying to get that to work. And talk about blood, sweat, and tears. That was literally, I put blood, sweat, and tears into that dress. I mean, I literally was crying when it was just not coming together the way I wanted it to. And I almost gave up, and I was talking to Tim about it, and he was just like, he told me afterwards, after I finished it and everything, he told me afterwards, like when I was about ready to give up, he was like, he wasn't gonna let me give up. And I was just like, I don't know how I pushed through and got that done. And when I was even making it, it was a lot of stuff going on at the time actually. So I think it was like right before or during the time that we were planning to move to where we are now. So I was trying to pack and trying to put that dress together, and I was struggling with that. And at one point, we had already moved. We moved into our new place, and I was sewing one night, and I literally got my finger caught in the machine, and like the needle went right through my finger, like right on the edge of, I think it was this finger, and I could not get it. I could not figure it out because I was like panicking at the time, and I didn't even think to like manually roll up the needle. I think I kept pushing the pedal because I was trying to get the needle to come up. I couldn't even get it together in my head to just manually get it off my finger. And I started screaming for Tim. He was asleep, and I was just like screaming for him to help me. Yeah, that was the most disastrous moment in my sewing. Biggest sewing hopes or challenges? Let's see. My biggest hope, I guess my biggest hope would be to get to a point where challenge? I don't know. That's a hard one. I can't really say what my biggest hope or challenge would be with my sewing. I don't know. Woven or knit? Both. I don't really have a preference. At first, I don't know if it's most sewists or not, but at first it was woven because that was, I think when you're starting out, you need something that's stable, and then even cutting out the pattern and getting a fit right. But when I started doing knit, I fell in love with it, with knits also. So it's probably 50-50, and I think that's what's in my stash now is 50-50. Most used pattern. I would say Simplicity 2934. It's kind of like a t-shirt dress. And this one, the York Pinafore, is definitely one of my favorites. And what's another favorite? Simplicity, I don't know the number, but that's one of my favorites too. Yeah, I would say those three are my favorites, or my most used. What's the one piece of advice you would give yourself if you could go back to when you first started sewing? Take my time. I get so excited about something, like whether it's the fabric, whether it's the pattern, and I've seen it on Instagram or Pinterest or something. I get in my head, I want to make it. I am just like ready, set, go. Roughly how many makes in a month? That kind of goes back to one of the earlier questions about how often or how much time do you spend sewing. And it's hard to say. Like last month it wasn't a lot. Well, I guess I take that back, because even though I didn't actually make any outfits for myself per se, I still did a lot of masks. So, and I mean, if you tally that up, that's like way more than the average number of makes that I usually do in a month. I guess before this all happened, I would probably say probably 3 to 6 makes a month. It's probably somewhere around there. And since I don't like keep track, I've been trying to get better and at least take a picture of what I make when I make it. So that has been helping me out. So, because since I'm not really a big planner, sometimes I just lose track of what I've made. So who do you sew for? I sew for myself for the most part. No, but I do sew for other people and family, friends. I made a couple things for Tim. Did I make? I made a bag for Autumn, my stepdaughter. Yeah, so I sew for different people. Where is your favorite place to buy fabric? It would be the Discount Fabric Outlet in Clawson, Michigan, along with Haberman Fabrics. That's also in Clawson. I also like to buy fabric. I mean, I go to Joann's too, because I mean, it's the most convenient. Joann, Walmart, and Hobby Lobby are probably my top 5. Favorite pattern company. If you could only sew their patterns forever. Ooh, yikes. Probably Simplicity, just because most of the things that I've made have been Simplicity. Not that I specifically go to Simplicity, but it just kind of like when I'm going through the books, when I'm looking for a pattern that I like, that suits my style, it's usually Simplicity. I also love Tessuti, and I mean, I love this one, but I got this one from Helen's Closet and another pattern which is the Yanta overalls. I don't know how you pronounce that. Yanta overalls, which I haven't made yet, but I do love this pattern from Helen's Closet, the York Pinafore. I think I would say Simplicity. Most favorite and least favorite sewing task. My most favorite sewing task would be probably looking for fabric. I do enjoy looking for fabric and touching it and getting my creative juices flowing when I'm walking through the fabric stores. So I'd probably say that. My least favorite task would be sewing. My least favorite task is probably the tracing. I trace all my patterns because sometimes I have to, I'm getting better with like figuring out my size or getting the right size the first time around, but I still like to trace my patterns because still sometimes I have to grade out like around my hips. So I grade to different sizes. So that's one of my least favorites. Tracing the pattern, cutting out the fabric. Printed or PDF? I would have said printed before, but now that I've found this printing company where I can just send my PDF patterns to the company and have them printed and sent to me, now that I've figured that out, I love PDF patterns just as much. So, best tip or technique you've learned from YouTube? So many. Grading out a pattern is one. I found the technique of pivoting on corners. That was another one. Like when you have a corner or you have a inset and an outset that you have to connect the corners with. A tip would probably be the best tip ever, and it wasn't on YouTube, it was on Instagram. I saw this girl. It's a flashlight that you put on your head. It has a band that goes around your head, and I'm sure who uses it? Mechanics, or because they sell it at Home Depot. So construction workers, and a lot of people use these, but that was like the best idea ever. It's so many different tips and techniques that I've learned from YouTube. I can't even remember all of them, but yeah, those are a few. How has your style changed since you started sewing? I would say playing around with colors. I've liked colors, like different patterns or designs, even before I started sewing. I think I've tried different patterns that I wouldn't normally go toward. And I don't know exactly what that would be or why that would be, but I think it just, like, sewing has just opened me up so much to different patterns and colors and styles. And because I can try it, and if I don't like it, like, I don't feel so bad that I just spent a ton of money on something. Because usually if it's something that I'm not sure about, like, I'll try it in a muslin and try it with a less expensive fabric, or like a sheet or something, and I'll try it and see how I like it before I cut into like a more expensive fabric. I've been able to just try whatever I want and see how it'll look on me. Like, for one, I don't think I would have normally purchased a jumpsuit, and I found this pattern and I liked the way it looked on the model on the cover of the pattern, and so I bought it and made it, and I was so excited about that. That was another one that I was really proud of, that I made that pants jumpsuit. So yeah, I do like that, but I'm just able to just try whatever I want. This is the quick fire round. Favorite fashion designer? Favorite fashion designer? That's a hard one. I don't really get into designers per se. Like, even when I was buying clothes, there wasn't like one specific designer that I was just like, oh, I just love their style of clothes. So I don't know. Can't think of any. Heels or flats? Flats? Flats, because they're just more comfortable. Heels, I do love heels. I love the way they look. The way they make your outfit look. Like, sometimes an outfit just doesn't look right unless you have on heels. So it's like kind of like part of the look to have on heels. But I much prefer flats on an everyday basis. Ice lolly or ice creams? I don't think we have ice lollies, so I would say ice cream. Paris or New York? Paris. Gym bunny or couch potato? Couch potato. Not that I'm a couch potato, but I mean, if I had a choice, I would much rather be just chilling out. Current box set. Current box set. None. Tell us 2 truths and 1 lie. I don't have anything for that. Okay, so that wraps it up. So that was the so many questions, and yeah, so that was just a little bit about me. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of who I am. And I think most people have tagged other people, so I'm gonna tag 2 people. I have 2 cousins that sew, and one has a YouTube page, one doesn't, but I'm gonna tag them both anyway. One is my cousin Darlene Elam, and the other one is Mariah Hemmingway, who does have a YouTube channel. So I'm gonna tag both of them to do this so many questions. All right, I hope you enjoyed this. It was fun. So if you have any more questions that you want to know about me, please feel free to comment below. And yeah, that's it. All right, bye.
Perfect.